Hello there, welcome back to another episode of Paleobiology with Dr. Stack. I'm here today to show you one of my favorite fossils from my personal collection. So I'm back in Michigan today, and this fossil is from the Devonian of Michigan, so it's a little over 380-ish million years old. It's from the lower peninsula of Michigan, which back in the Devonian period was covered by this shallow saltwater, basically tropical ocean. And a huge part of the evidence for that is we find fossils of the types of animals we find in tropical environments today. And I'm going to go through all of these with you. Now, this animal here, and if we zoom in a little bit more closely, should be, oh, there we go. All those little holes would have been occupied by a tiny little coral, essentially. Just like living corals today, which are animals, which build these calcareous skeletons, and each of these little holes would have been a little individual. Growing on this coral is something called a micrococonid, which is this coiled shell you see here. Micrococonids are a type of worm. We're actually not quite sure exactly what they are. We find a ton of them in the fossil record. They're not around anymore. That like to grow on other animals, right? So we see a coral with another animal growing on top of it, probably a worm. And then around them, we see these other branching animals. Let's see if we can find it. Here's another one here, another species, right? And you're noticing all of these animals are just growing on top of each other, right? All of these different, there's tons of corals. There's tons of, so these animals are called heterelloids, and they're a type of basically colonial worm, which is kind of weird to think about. Like imagine if all the earthworms in your garden lived in one little house that they built. That's basically what we have here. And we also have what are called bryozoans, which is another type of colonial animal that we still find today. So bryozoans and corals still around, heterelloids and our micrococonids not around anymore. But fossils like this tell us that Michigan used to be covered with this tropical sea, right? So many hundreds of millions of years ago. And that this sea was absolutely teeming with life, all of these living things. And we can see the competition between these animals, right? We can see all these different animals growing on top of each other, right? Competing for space because all of these animals are filtering food out from the water column, which is being what's called a suspension feeder, which means that these animals would have grabbed plankton and other organic material out of the water column. Hope that was interesting. Let me know if you enjoy these kinds of videos. I have tons of cool fossils that I'd be happy to show you guys. And just to end, I love these little micrococonids. They're so adorable. Look at this teeny tiny little wormy guy. All right, have a nice day.